all in all, a very good chapter, but the face that Enel makes at the end, just utter disbelief and, oh God.
One Piece, Chapter 279, Pirate Luffy versus God Enel.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the shocking, the electrifying, the glorious tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with leaving us at that nice cliffhanger where Luffy, guided by Isa and the mantra that the child possesses, wound up actually being able to find Enel and Nami at the at the god Enel's arc Maxim that he had. So, and then of course the other end of it was back on Angel Island. Conis, of course, making her bid to everybody to like, hey, listen, we got to get the hell out of here. The god's trying to kill everybody. So, but it was cool because the chapter ended off with Luffy, of course, just being like, hey, Kami, or hey, God, So, are you the god? Are you the guy? So very cool stuff. And anyway, it winds up picking up back over on Angel Island, and everybody now they obviously believed Conis, and they're now evacuating, and it's just complete mass panic and hysteria. And we wind up seeing Captain McKinley and kind of a moment between, and it's kind of a neat moment because, and I want to focus on it for a second, because he talks, with Conis, and he winds up talking about, he says, my only goal is to get everybody to safety, because people start questioning Conis and saying, well, do you know about this person? He was in the God's army. He was one of the helpers, and these are all the people that we presume that obviously Enel turned against and killed, the ones that he used to build the Arc Maxim, or maybe they're all just knocked unconscious, not really sure, but they're not here right now. So Conis is trying to artfully dodge and evade the questions, and McKinley comes and bails her out and says, don't worry, the White Berets will look into it. We'll make sure you just get to Cloud's End, get the hell out of here, blah blah blah. And then he tells Conis, he says, listen, I don't want another incident like Bilka. And she says, like, Bilka, what are you talking about? He says Bilka was an island, a sky island in the far southeastern region. It was where Enel was actually, born or raised, or where he was from. 6 years ago, it was destroyed, So basically, when Enel decided to get his troops together and come over here and take down, and he said there was a Sky Knight there too, but that Sky Knight was no match for Enel. Obviously, he's invincible with the lightning power and everything. So basically, he just decided to go and destroy his homeland and burn it to the ground, whatever. I don't know if it was just completely destroyed or he somehow found a way to sink that into the Blue Sea. Whatever the case may be, it's gone. And McKinley is, like, he explains that he was actually one of, Gonfal's, one of Gonfal's warriors loyal to him. And once Gonfal was defeated, his whole thing was, instead of going and fighting against this unstoppable force, it was kind of like a, hey, you know what, I'll still help try to protect the people and make sure something like this never happens again, So he pretty much just, he's been following orders from Enel, which is not right. He's ashamed and embarrassed of that. But his intentions were good. His intentions were, we can't beat this force. And it wasn't so much we can't beat him, join him, but it was, we can't beat this force, so let's see if I can do the best I can to minimize the amount of damage or casualties or people, citizens getting harmed that are in harm's way because of that. So, although it may not have been the path that I would have chose personally, I do think that I do think that there's some honor in what he did. He did turn his back on Gonfal, but at the same time, he knew and kind of made a split second decision and basically said, you know what, this guy is unstoppable because of his power. This is what I'm going to do. So a really cool thing, I thought, because it kind of focused on giving you all the history of the Skypiea and everything, and then also showed you this McKinley is not just a stupid jarhead that goes and blindly follows orders. He has some feelings. He does care. There is a backstory, and those are the things that I like about this tale. So now it gets to the meat and potatoes of the chapter, as I like to say, and this is cool because it goes in it, it ends off right where Luffy's looking up at the Arc Maxim and, and basically calling Enel out, and saying, he's going, you don't really look like a god to me. And Enel's like, you better watch yourself, and Luffy's like, yeah, whatever, man. So Luffy starts going and, using his obviously his stretchy powers. He's rubber. And it was kind of cool because from the beginning, once I found out that Enel had electricity, I always thought that Luffy would have a natural advantage over him because of rubber, because he's rubber, and that the powers would not work on him, or certainly wouldn't be nearly as effective. And that's only because I remember when I was younger and there would be lightning and stuff out, and the kids would be freaking out. My younger brothers and sisters would be freaking out in the car. I remember something my parents said, and they said, no, we're riding on rubber tires, so even if the car got struck by lightning, by some weird thing, the tires would absorb that, and they explained about how it, how it would absorb the electricity and everything else, so we wouldn't actually get shocked because it wouldn't conduct it to the ground. And they explained the whole thing to me, and I was like 6 years old, and I was amazed. I was like, oh, that's so great. So, so that was my guess, and it seems like that one's going to come true as the chapter progresses, and he kind of gets up and gets onto the actual arc, And Enel is just like, you know what, that's it. I've had it with this guy, right? So he goes and he goes and he does his Thor move, and lightning comes down and everything else, and there's this giant hole burn. He thinks Luffy's done, and Nami's like, oh my god, Luffy, right? And then Luffy's just standing there, and he just looks a little charred up, but I think that was probably just beaten up from being inside that damn snake for so long. So, so then he goes and he throws... And I got to show you this picture in just a moment, because I think it's probably the funniest picture, and I might actually have to draw it myself. So then he goes and he does his, what does he do here? He does his lightning dragon move, which I thought was kind of cute. He did the lightning dragon. Boom, nails Luffy. Luffy's just standing there. Now we know that he didn't dodge it. He just stood there and took the brunt of it, right? Then he goes and he gives him the 100 million volt varie, or varie, however you want to pronounce it. But he goes and he lays that down on him, and that's what he wound up using on Wiper, if you remember right, to go and just kind of finish him off after the Thor thing that he did. So I just love this. And, lightning doesn't work on him because he's made of rubber, and I'm like, yeah, I called it. Not like it was that big of a stretch of the imagination, but I'm just glad that I finally kind of guessed something. But then we get it's so cool because as Enel, you got to remember, he's confident. He's not just kind of that pompous ass that just goes and blindly thinks that, he's not one of those people that just says, well, I'm just the best because I'm the best. Like, he can back it up, you know what I mean? His powers, he's never been able to see anybody that could be formidable foe against him or his powers. I mean, the closest he came to taking some damage was, of course, when the sea prism was on Wiper's little skate thing, and he wrapped his legs around him and then nailed him with the rejectile. But that was probably the closest he's ever come to actually being harmed. So in his mind, I think it's like it's the God complex, and that's why he thinks he's God, because he's invincible and all-powerful, in his mind anyway. And really, I mean, up until now, he hasn't seen anybody that can do anything to him. So this was a revelation for me, because Luffy, all of a sudden, he just gets this face. You got to see that. I mean... That has got to be the best face that Oda has ever drawn. It took a whole page to do it, too. Eyes just popping out of his head, mouth dropped wide open, and he just cannot believe. He honestly looks like somebody just stuck their finger up his butt. He looks like the guy, he looks like he's at his proctologist exam, going and getting his, checking for an enlarged prostate or something, and the doctor has his hand all the way up his ass, because that's just this funny face. And then I love it. And then he's like thinking in his head, he's like, okay, well, that's fine. He's just this blue sea monkey. He still can't hit me, blah, blah, and this and that, right? Luffy goes and then comes at him and just, boom, just jacks him up, hits him right in the face. And then I love the whole thing, too, because you got Nami in the next one. She's like, lightning power is completely useless. Not even Enel could have imagined that there's someone in the world against whom lightning would be useless. Maybe Luffy is Enel's one and only natural enemy. And I was just like, oh, God, it's so awesome. You just see Enel laid out there on the ground. Luffy has smacked his shit up. And Luffy doesn't care. Luffy, he didn't really come at him with any particular type of plan or forethought at all. It was basically just, you know what, Nami's with him. He messed up my whole crew. Now this dude pissed me off. He's got to pay, So it was very much that blinder tunnel vision that Luffy has. He didn't come at him with any type of strategy. He probably will need to, I would think, before Enel is actually defeated. I'm assuming, but of course I don't know, so I'm just looking forward to digging into the next one. So my chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is really, what are your thoughts on the whole background? They gave a little bit of a background on Enel and where he came from. What kind of sick bastard goes and grows up and then decides, I'm a god, I'm all-powerful, I'm going to take over the world? I hope they give a little more background into how he came upon the devil fruit and actually, wound up eating it, right? Because he wasn't like this his whole life, we're assuming. We're assuming he ate the devil fruit at some point. So I would like to see, hopefully, like a little backstory into that, into how he came into power and kind of got that big head, that god complex, and decided, hey, man, I'm going to go take over this place. I'm going to burn my homeland to the ground. I'm going to go over to Skypiea. I'm going to take all that out. Then I'm going to build a big ark, use the gold as a conductor to go and fly to wherever, Fairy Verth or Endless Verth or wherever it is that he's going, and I'm going to crash Skypiea into the blue sea. Just because I can, I would like to know what your thoughts are on Enel, his background, those sort of things. Leave those in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. We look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation.
This is what Luffy does if he don't like you. He just punch you right in the mouth. So go on over to my Facebook and Instagram page to see more mouth punching.